is, well, why do we want democracies in the first place? How do we know that it's better than totalitarianism? Then we need to define democracy first. And we are quite familiar with this, right? Democracy is a political system in which citizens enjoy a number of basic civil and political rights. Right? The most important political leaders are elected in free and fair elections. So leaders are not inherited or auctioned, but elected. And also, the leaders are accountable under a rule of law. And this is a very straightforward definition of democracy, and as you know, very minimal definition of democracy. To be called democracy, you gotta have at least this. But I told you earlier that the Korean system tend to have a weakness according to this definition, and that's what's that? You guys all nodded, so speak up. Say just one word. That one word is accountability, right? Because of one-term presidency, accountability tend to be weak because when does, say, ill-performing politicians get punished by the people? At the time of the elections. But if your term is just one by definition, then you never face the electorate again. Therefore, your accountability must be weak. Okay? So, one-term presidency doesn't seem to be a good political institution, and something that we can change, hopefully in the near future. And in large political systems, democracy must be achieved largely through indirect population in policy making. We already know that. So it is simply not feasible for millions of people to discuss policy alternatives and choose one among them. Therefore, we elect our representatives, right? So, elections, competitive political parties, free mass media, and representative assemblies make some degree of democracy, some degree of government by the people possible. So that's why we adopt indirect democracy. Now let's look at non-democracies. Would you be willing to live in the society ruled by those people? Probably not, right? So in authoritarian systems, lack one or more of the defining features of democracy. So either there is no elections, no accountability, no freedom or rights, okay? No free mass media. Any one or more are missing, then we have an authoritarian system. Now, in democracies, comparative elections give citizens the chance to shape the entire policymaking process through their selection and rejection of key policymakers. So although we don't get to choose policy that we want by ourselves, by sending our representatives, someone who have similar preferences with me, right? We can at least move the policy toward my preference. Okay? I've always told you that do not think of candidates as a single person, but a policy package, right? So since you are voting for a policy of your liking, there's a chance that you can impact the final policy outcome at least a little. Now, this is not the case in authoritarian systems. In oligarchies, such as South Africa during the apartheid, well, oligarchy literally means rule by few, right? So minorities rule and majority did not have voice in policy making, which was the case for the blacks under apartheid in South Africa. And how about totalitarianism? Again, do you want to live in, say, Hitler's Germany or Stalin's Soviet Union? What, it might be fun? Don't think that you want to try? Well, the government constricts the rights and privacy of its citizens in a particularly severe and intrusive manner, and individuals really do not matter in totalitarian systems. Only the collectivity matters. So we do not have personal identity. And Nazi Germany and Soviet Union under Stalin were good examples. Anyway, the point is, there seems to be no better alternative to democracy as of now. So we tend to think that democracy, among the systems that we already know, is the best political system that we have. However, democratization is an ongoing process. So there is no such thing as completion of democracy. Okay? Democratization is an ongoing process, and there is much room for further progress. So we will investigate varieties of political institutions and qualifications for politicians and qualifications for the citizens throughout this semester. You understand that this is the first day of the semester, right?